Well, it really is the oldest question in the book.
Why is the sky blue?
No, not that.
Cash or credit?
Well, there were no credit cards back in the day. No. How do you propose to the woman that you love?
500 pounds of sand and a diamond ring?
Make it sound like it's that easy to figure that one out. Well, we're down on one knee this week on Extra Time. Hey everybody, welcome to Extra Time. I'm Greg Lawless alongside Shep Messing and Jason the producer. And before we go any further, we have to congratulate Jason on getting engaged to his longtime girlfriend, Jessica. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The future Mrs. Producer.
That's enough about her.
Well done, but you could focus, well now that you're engaged, let's focus on the show.
Well, the show this week, we're going to start off with Guillermo Barrosschelotto and the big match between Columbus and Chicago over the weekend, a 2-2 draw. Chicago had the lead before GBS comes out and leads the crew back. Couple of questions come to mind. Number one, does this set up Columbus as the best team in MLS? Number two, is Barrosschelotto now the front runner for the MVP again?
Well, as far as best team in MLS, they're playing LA this weekend, so they have another tough test against another one of the best teams. They've played Chicago 3 times this year and tied every time. I mean, there's very little difference between the teams on the field.
I look at that game, and yes, Columbus is clearly, if not the best, one of the best teams in the league. Schelotto, magic. I mean, magic. The ability to get the ball and to engage, make your teammates better, I think unparalleled this year. But Chicago, I give them credit. I think they're back in.
Oh, so you give them credit. See, I look at it the other way and say they had a 2-0 lead at home and they gave it up. So I actually would argue that this was a chance for them to get 3 points against the top team in the East, maybe push them for the championship in the Eastern Conference, and they didn't get it done.
They should. I think the weak point for Chicago right now is clearly in defense. Conde is a solid player, probably a Defender of the Year candidate, but you look at the rest of their defense and there's nothing really. I mean, they're missing Sagaris, they're obviously missing Samari, so what they have left isn't as impressive, and it showed in giving up a 2-goal lead.
They got some nice goals though from Peter Lowry. The kid only scores highlights. The guy's like a highlight machine right now.
Yeah, spectacular. Young player, still trying to find his game, but he's got that ability to attack a defense. We've seen him with a couple of spectacular goals. I like Chicago that they came and attacked the game, and on the whole body of work, I think it was a soft penalty kick that gave Columbus that second goal.
On Lowry, I think it's interesting that you have this kid who's kind of breaking through into the first team now, getting some playing time, showing the kind of depth that Chicago has in the midfield. Unfortunately for them, they don't have the depth in the back, and that's where they need it right now.
Well, as they push for that, I guess they're basically fighting right now for the Eastern Conference. I would say at this point, Chicago is pretty much set for the playoffs going into it. However, Los Angeles gets a big win against Toronto. TFC not set for the playoffs, that's for sure, and they're still fighting to get in even. But Los Angeles comes out big, and you know what? It's the big boy, David Beckham, having a massive game. The guy was everywhere. He gets a goal. I mean, this was his game, wasn't it?
I think he was well aware of his performance the game before in Dallas.
Right.
Against Dallas, he was banging long balls across the field. Most of them weren't connecting. It was really probably his worst performance this year, at least. And he came back. He bounced back from that with an effort where he was all over the field. I think the best example of what he did in that game was stealing the ball and setting up the Buttle goal with the pass to Donovan. I mean, that kind of illustrated what he was putting into that game.
Right. Getting down deep, getting to the ball, getting it back to Landon Donovan, who could then get it over to Buttle for the goal.
I think we all agreed with Bruce Arena in charge, and players like Landon Donovan, David Beckham, they take it personally when they get embarrassed like a game the previous week. So they played really well. They attacked the game. I thought Beckham, that first goal, very uncharacteristic for David Beckham to split 2 defenders and score a goal like that.
We haven't seen him very often, even in that position. Right. In his career, we don't see him. He's usually much further out wide. So
Buttle, I think we also all agree, when he is healthy, he's got terrific feet. He's a key part of that team.
I think this Galaxy team, which was pretty good before they came back, now with Buttle and Franklin on the field, they've upgraded 2 positions. Burchell came back, played on the outside. They let Donovan play up front. I mean, this makes them a much better team, and I would say favorite in the Western Conference right now.
Well, arguably, though, the inclusion of Julian de Guzman was supposed to make Toronto a better team. How would you assess his first performance with the team?
A little rusty. I think it was a little rusty. I think you could see how active he was and how he got up and down the field. It's going to help them in the long run. Just I'd say right now, maybe it's going to take him a game or two to learn his teammates' tendencies, to kind of get a feel for the ball.
So do you think that might have hurt him, though, because he doesn't know his teammates' tendencies?
Yeah, I think it hurt him short term in the game against the LA Galaxy. It's easier to integrate a defensive player into a team. And he's a deep midfielder, but he's really an attacking player. And I thought the other midfield players, including De Rosario pushed up front, really didn't know what he was going to do. I think they'll get better.
You don't have time to, you can't take your time integrating him into the team. They don't have that many games left.
That's true, but that's the problem, though, with integrating a player at such a critical juncture of the season. Well, another big guy who had a big game, Zach Thornton.
Very big guy.
Very big guy. Zach Thornton was in the nets for Chivas USA against Seattle. A 0-0 draw at Quest Field. This is a huge result for Chivas. Chivas basically didn't play any attack whatsoever. They weren't really interested. They got the draw, though, and as they are right now in that final spot in the Western Conference for the playoffs, just ahead of DC in points, they needed this result, and it was a great one, and it was up to the Big Cat to get it done.
I don't think there's any question. And we all talk about his size. For pure quality, Zach Thornton is unbelievable. Chivas in no way deserved to be in that game. Zach Thornton with a couple of world-class saves. You have to think Seattle was going to win that game. Chivas fortunate, and that's a good point for them.
I'll be honest. I think sometimes I've thought that if you took a life-size cutout of Zach Thornton and put it in front of the goal, it would make a bunch of saves just because of the size of it. But he showed in this game that he can still move, he can still make saves. I mean, he played real well, and he definitely saved, Chivas in that game.
Zach, that was Jason, the producer, that was talking about all that.
Always picking on the goalkeeper.
Seriously.
He's a big guy.
He is a big guy, but he moves like he's
athleticism,
he's
agility. Those are point-blank shots that, they're shots and goal-scoring opportunities where coaches and players say that's got to be a goal.
Well, this week we got a couple of emails actually about goalkeepers. We got an email from Dalton in Monroe, New Jersey. We also got an email from a new fan, Cyril Brunner in Switzerland, and they both wondered who's the best goalkeeper in MLS. Let's start actually with the question, who would be goalkeeper of the year for you if it were to pick right now?
Well, the email from Switzerland, he probably wants Stefan Frei.
Yeah, you can imagine. He wants Stefan Frei to play for Switzerland too.
I'm taking nothing away this season from Casey Keller and Pat Onstedt. For me, the best goalkeeper in Major League Soccer this year is Zach Thornton.
You agree?
I don't agree. The part I agree with is I don't want to take anything away from Pat Onstedt, and Casey Keller's had a good year, but I think it's Donovan Ricketts. I think what Ricketts has done for LA, I would actually argue that he's an MVP candidate, not only a Goal of the Year candidate.
Well, I don't think it takes anything away from any of the other guys to mention that either Thornton or Ricketts are the MVPs, but lots of great goalkeepers out in Los Angeles right now. That's all we have for you on today's show, but on Wednesday we will talk to someone who tries to beat the goalkeepers every week, Brian McBride of the Chicago Fire.